Welcome to the California Maverick, a channel fighting for a free and sane California. The California Democrat Gavin Newsom MO: never let a good crisis go to waste. We have another crisis and another grift being exposed. Gavin Newsom and California Democrats are weaponizing the homeless epidemic to fuel endless campaigns and launder taxpayer dollars. But a bombshell state audit teamed up with the federal government is exposing the so-called homeless industrial complex and ripping the veil off the $24 billion that just vanished into thin air, while the homelessness increased 50% under Newsom. We got a lot to get into. Since 2008, Gavin Newsom has run on solving the homeless crisis since his campaign for San Francisco mayor.
Affordability is number one. Issue of housing costs. Everywhere I go, that's the universal issue. Number two, people are just fed up with the homeless crisis in the state. No other state in the country has many people out in the streets and sidewalks as the state of California. I think if the next governor doesn't address the issue of affordability on housing, that governor will have failed.
What we call a 10-year plan to end chronic homeless in San Francisco.
How are you going to solve homelessness? What are you going to do as a new mayor? And I say, well, what are you going to do?
Focus on a housing first model, direct access to housing.
Shelter, solve sleep, housing with wraparound and support services, solve homelessness. Homelessness absolutely can be solved.
Laid out a detailed homeless strategy. There's been no intentionality on homelessness in the state for decades. It's not been a focus. I don't think we can solve homelessness. I know we can solve homelessness. We will reduce street homelessness quickly and humanely through emergency action. The highest investment the state's ever made is $1 billion on homelessness. We are poised to pass a budget in the next few hours that will provide $12 billion of investment. I can literally quantify 58,000 people that we got off the streets last year, and none of you would believe it.
The state has not made progress in the last 2 decades as it relates to homelessness. Why?
We're not interested in funding failure. We're not interested in failing more efficiently when it comes to the issue of homelessness and the crisis.
Since then, California's homelessness has exploded. California has almost 200,000 homeless out on the streets amongst the 4 major cities. To put it in perspective, California has 1/3 of the nation's homeless population residing within it. In 2024, a state audit came out and revealed that the $24 billion spent on the homeless crisis was unaccounted for. And Governor Gavin Newsom and California legislators could not give a clear and concise answer for where all the money went.
$50 million in fraud exposed, and it said that's just the tip of the iceberg. In one case, the culprit, already facing a lawsuit last year from his former employer for embezzlement, was accused of buying lavish gifts for his then girlfriend, a $46,000 per month rental home in Beverly Hills, $111,000 on a diamond necklace. There was an Hermes Himalayan crocodile Birkin bag, $53,000 spent at Coachella, a $35,000 Piaget watch, and $12,000 to the Department of Education to pay off a student loan. Joining us now, U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley.
This, like I said, is the tip of the iceberg. California has spent $24 billion over the last 5 years, allegedly, to solve homelessness. And before President Trump appointed me to be the U.S. Attorney here, I was in the state legislature, and we were clamoring, where is this money going? Who's getting it? Because homelessness has gotten worse, not better. So the first thing I did upon being sworn in was setting up a task force with the FBI and the IRS to look at the money. A reporter asked me, how does $24 billion go missing? I said, it doesn't, and we're going to find it. And we wanted to release these cases yesterday to show the public that we mean business. And again, this is the very beginning, and we have many more investigations. We have over a dozen investigations that are deep in the process right now as we speak. Well, I think a lot of it is going to turn out to be fraud, but what's, I think, offensive to a lot of taxpayers is the lack of interest or curiosity from state officials or local officials to have any accountability. They're just handing this money out with no questions asked, and a lot of us have a lot of questions on why they have no interest in supervising this money. And so a lot of these are given out to people who are politically connected. And this is the problem when you have a state that has a supermajority party that runs everything from the state down to the local level. There are no checks and balances, and there's no one there to call for accountability. So thank God President Trump won, and now we have a new check in the state of California, and it's the federal government. The state doesn't like it, but we're here, and we're going to do our job.
And it's not just in Los Angeles and San Francisco. James Lee, an independent journalist who has a great YouTube channel, did some investigating and found that the San Diego mayor, who's also part of the California Air Resources Board, which is another grift dealing with climate change, discovered multiple companies and shell companies dealing with the housing crisis that is all connected to Gavin Newsom and the San Diego mayor.
I think I just discovered a massive money laundering scheme in California, and it has to do with this: homelessness. Some of you may have seen this headline: $24 billion gone missing. Gavin Newsom, no idea where it is, and this money was supposed to have gone to tackling homelessness. Well, I think I may have just discovered what happened to some of that missing money. Okay, so this is San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. He's been on quite the rampage in the last couple years, making all kinds of public housing deals. Except when you look into it, none of these projects make any sense. For example, $145 million for 407 units. Here's another one, $150 million, 270 units. This is absolutely bonkers. How is this going to solve anything? I mean, you walk around East Village in San Diego and it looks like a freaking dump. But that's not even the whole thing. It gets even weirder. In all of these public housing projects, there's one investment group that pops up over and over again, which is the Chelsea Development Corporation. Chelsea Development Corporation. Chelsea Investment Corporation. So I go to their website and they say, Chelsea Investment Corporation is focused on creating and preserving high-quality, affordable rental homes. We take special pride in our ability to structure creative financing solutions that result in the development of award-winning housing that complements the surrounding neighborhood. And then I dig a little bit deeper and we find out that the Chelsea Investment Group is an investment fund that is based in the Cayman Islands. These are definitely the guys that you want to get involved with. But their HQ is in California, 6339 Paseo del Lago, Carlsbad, California, 92011. Now it gets even sketchier. 6339 Paseo del Lago in Carlsbad is owned by this company called 13th and Broadway CICLP. 13th and Broadway CICLP is basically a shell company that's been formed by the Chelsea Investment Corporation. Okay, let's go back to this property report. Okay, so if you go back to the transaction history, you'll see that in October 2016, this headquarters, this building was sold for $3 million, $3.15 million. But in November of 2023, it's now worth $68.7 million. How does this make any sense? 2016, it was worth $3 million. Now it's worth $68 million. Then you look at the lender. It is the Housing Authority of San Diego. San Diego Housing Authority is not a bank, but it's certainly acting as a bank right now. $68.7 million to some investment group based in the Cayman Islands. Tell me this doesn't look like money laundering. I don't know. There's definitely some smoke here. None of this makes any sense. There's definitely, allegedly, I think something, these two are up to something shady. That's all I can say. Allegedly.
And if you want to dive a little deeper, last year, Governor Gavin Newsom launched this whole tiny home campaign where they're supposed to build 1,200 tiny homes throughout the state to help with the homeless crisis. How are 1,200 tiny homes supposed to house or solve the homeless crisis for 200,000 homeless? In Sacramento, for example, the city was supposed to build 350 tiny home units for over 11,000 homeless. $12 million for 350 tiny homes? The math just doesn't add up and it just doesn't make sense. And not a single tiny home has been built since this project's announcement.
Tonight, we're asking local and state leaders about a promise Governor Gavin Newsom made more than a year ago that hasn't yet come to fruition. 1,200 so-called tiny homes or sleeping cabins spread across our 4 cities statewide, including here in Sacramento. Today, not one of those cabins is up and running. Becca Hubegger explains.
You want to see progress and you want to see it now.
In March of 2023, Governor Gavin Newsom announced a plan to give 4 cities sleeping cabins totaling 1,200 beds, 500 to Los Angeles, 200 to San Jose, 150 to San Diego County, and 350 to Sacramento. But more than a year later, not a single one is even installed, let alone providing transitional housing to the homeless population they're meant to serve.
All right, I want to bring in Becca Habegger, who, of course, has been following this for us. And I want to talk about costs because the state is investing $80 million into this project. Right?
Right, and about $23 million of that is going to Sacramento. Now, Cap Radio, which also published an investigation yesterday, reported the Stockton Boulevard project is estimated to cost $22.5 million. That leaves about $800,000 to buy the other 175 tiny homes. And with each unit costing a minimum of $100,000 to stand up, the money likely won't go far. Now, the state tells me that's because Sacramento asked to use their money to further build out the emergency shelter and services site at Stockton Boulevard beyond just the purchase of those sleeping cabins. So whatever's left over will be put toward the Watt Avenue site.
And it's constant with these people over and over and over again. There's a pattern of mismanagement, loss of money, a perennial budget deficit statewide of $12 billion to $20 billion. You have $3 billion missing from the cap and trade, which, by the way, just got extended to 2045 and is going to increase our gas by 60 cents. So technically 10 cents more. You have $1.4 billion for the Capitol Annex that nobody approves, that California politicians forced 2,000 NDAs to be signed. You have the high-speed rail to nowhere with not even a track laid. That's going to cost a projected $130 billion. So far, it's cost $30 billion. 16 years later, you have $100 million of fire aid money missing. And then you have $12 billion given to illegals for healthcare. It's just constant with these people over and over and over again. I don't know when we're going to learn to vote these people out, to stop voting for these people over and over again. We have a supermajority in this state, and it's up and down. It's not just the governor. It's the lieutenant governor. It's the state assembly, the state senate, our attorney general, our treasurer, our district attorneys all up and down the state, mayors in San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, city council members, all Democrats. It's up and down this state. And the reason why no one's being held accountable is because the people in charge of accountability are the ones committing the fraud. They're the ones that are corrupt. They're the ones that are incompetent. And so I ask this again in closing. When is enough enough? When are we going to stop voting for people just because they have a D next to their name? You can sit there and self-reflect and say, you know, maybe I should rethink my stances on things. Maybe I should rethink who I vote for and what I believe in. Or you can sit there and continue to say, this is MAGA propaganda. This is all Republicans and Donald Trump's fault. Number one, there are no Republicans in California. Number two, we wouldn't need all this quote unquote federal funding if we didn't waste billions upon billions upon billions of dollars every single year. When is enough enough? When are we going to change? If you like this video, leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.